Hey everyone, good morning, good morning. Or, well, good morning to most. Man, we got guys in here from all over the place. So, good morning to some, good afternoon to others. You guys, if this is your first time on the chat, you know I like to start a couple of minutes early here and just check the audio. If you guys give me a minute, let me get everything squared away. We're starting a new thing here. Y'all might see at the top. A lot of times on the old chats, I have to read people's questions, and I put this chat window at the top here so you guys can kind of see the questions, and that'll help us move a little faster and move a little quicker. If you guys could give me some thumbs up here and let me know that the audio's coming in good and everything's okay, I would greatly appreciate it. Let me get my chat windows set up here so I can see what you guys are saying. Loud and clear, fantastic. Thanks a million, guys. I'm not going to answer questions just yet. I'd like to cover a couple of things if you guys don't mind. First off, it's been a while since I've done one of these. As y'all know, if y'all been keeping up with the channel, it's been hard enough just to keep up with videos. We've just been absolutely hammered busy. So customers come first, man. So as all these back ordered parts are starting to roll in, it's an enormous amount of work that each one of those shipments represents. So that's what we have to do. Thanks to all of you that have bikes in here and people that have ordered parts and everything, getting ready to do your builds. Thanks a million to you guys for supporting us. I can't thank you enough. Which leads me to a thing. We just crossed over 30,000 subscribers. We've got close to 300 members. I see a ton of logos in here from Dewey, Pat, Michael, Anthony, Kevin's in here, Richard, the Trooper. You guys, the members that support the channel and get to see behind the scenes stuff, guys. Thank you a million for what you're and supporting our efforts here. So today I'm gonna do this live chat a little bit different. This is coffee this morning. So I'm gonna handle this one a little different. Typically I'll do these things and I have topics and I'll talk for 30 minutes to an hour. For you guys that have been on one of these chats before, sometimes these things that run an hour and a half, 2 hours, or even longer. And then I'll do a thing in the last 15 minutes or so, and I call it the speed round. And I encourage you guys just to hammer one question after another, and I answer them as fast as we can. I think it's a good time doing that. But the reason that I'm doing this one a little different, and I don't have a topic already, is this just a small way that I can say thanks to all of you guys for your support. I read all of your comments, and I promise I try to answer all of your questions. I really do. There's only so much time in the day. I would love to be able to help everybody. It just kind of is what it is. So today, I have no specific topic. Today is completely unscripted and reserved for you guys. So we're going to answer your questions specifically. And I know we've got some questions that have already come in. Y'all just bear with me, please, and we'll get to all that stuff. There is one other thing I wanted to touch on. Some of you may remember the All Kids Bike program that we did about a year ago. And we actually did a live chat with Brian Clock from Clockworks. And if you notice, I'm actually wearing a Clockworks Dixon flannel today as kind of a thanks to Brian. Well, anyway, we got together. We did the All Kids Bike deal. We did a fundraiser. And then and check it out, allkidsbike.com. And what we do is we sponsor a local school. We put 25 bicycles into the school, and then it's an entire curriculum. They train the PE teachers and everything else. And the idea is to get small kids on bikes, get them physically fit. The idea is if you get them on bicycles, eventually they'll get on motorcycles. And we all know that to some degree, our industry is aging out. So, the more that we can get kids on bicycles, the better. And I'm going to occasionally, you're going to see me looking over to the right over here, checking kind of the stream health we've got. In this little town I'm in, sometimes the stream drops. If it does drop, hang with it, and it'll pop right back up, okay? And we shouldn't miss a beat. So anyway, the All Kids Bike thing, I found another school And what I would like to ask you guys to do today, you'll notice there's the super chat button down there. Anything that you send on a super chat, 100% of what you send on the super chat is going to go into the fund to sponsor this school that I've found. All right. And here's what I'm going to do. Whatever you send on the super chat, I'm going to match it 100%. And donate myself. It costs $5,000 to sponsor one of these schools. And, we've been selling our T-shirts and stuff for a while, too. So there's a portion, there's about, last I calculated, there was around $1,200 worth of the profit from our T-shirts that you guys have bought from the Teespring store. $1,200 that's gone into that fund. So we've got $3,800 more to raise in order to sponsor the school. So if you guys are feeling generous today and you want to say thanks, pop in a quick super chat and I will match your donation 100%. Michael, thank you very much, sir. $4.99 there for Michael. I'm going to match that. So anyway, let's get to the questions, guys. I can throw out some topics if you like. Of course, venting crankcases and sumping has been an ongoing topic for a very long time. How to choose cams has been a big one. Cam plates, oil pumps, gear drive versus chain. There's a lot of questions that come up out there. So I have seen I've seen quite a few questions come up. And Dark Soul, man, $20, awesome. Thank you, sir. Make me match this stuff, guys. Let me have it. I see there's some questions that have already been asked. I apologize if I've missed one of yours. My screen's about this big. Okay, so let's just let's get started right off the bat. Jet coat ceramic coating on head pipe. Yes or no? Absolutely. Jet coat is a proven technology. It's been around for a very, very long time, and it does help reduce heat quite a bit. There's a local guy, and I'll go ahead and throw his name out there. He's one of the best powder coaters and everything else in the business. Miller's Powder Coating out of Lilburn, Georgia. You've got Bill Miller's the old man. Oddly enough, Bill Miller used to be a commercial pilot, and he decided to get into the new fandangled powder coating business back in the 80s. And he's mastered his craft and then taught that craft to his son, Billy. So if you guys need any ceramic coating or anything like that, Miller's Powder Coating in Lilburn, Georgia is fantastic. Guys, thanks a million. Wesley, Anthony, Matt, you guys are awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Joshua, milling a CVO 110 head, how many cc per thou does that usually result in? On a 110 head, it's kind of hard to say, man. I see on the 110 heads anywhere, they can vary 3 to 4 cc's just straight out of the box. And you can on a typical chamber somewhere around 1 cc for every, or 6 thousandths per cc. On a 110 head, I'll kind of stick to that, but I'll cut it a little light and then measure and see where I'm at, and then cut it again. But that's kind of a good average of where you can go. Wesley, Anthony, good grief. Road Glide Bob, $50, man. Thanks, guys. Again, I'm going to match this 100%. I really appreciate it, guys. Y'all are awesome. Thank you. What kind of alcohol do you like so I can send you a bottle? You're a good man. I'm actually a whiskey drinker, sir. I have to admit. I do like a whiskey, and I don't really drink very often. I'll have a couple of drinks a week, something like that. And I'll admit I came from I say I came from a long line of talented alcoholics. My family, a lot of my family members struggled with that for quite a long time. And so I don't want to fall into that, so I limit it, 1 or 2 drinks a week. But when I have one, I like to have a really good old-fashioned, or I'll do a rum and Coke with some Captain Morgan. Thank you very much. Michael, how is my dad's CVO 2007? Yeah, Michael's dad, we're doing a 117 on his 2007 Electroglide. Actually, it's fantastic. The cases are completely done, and together. The crank is perfect and done. The cam chest is together. Your heads are done. We're making tremendous progress. What has held us up, of course, is back orders on cylinders. It seems that there are really only 4 companies that make cylinders, and everyone else kind of puts their names on them. They come from different places and different specifications. But there seems to be a ductile iron shortage right now. So getting proper liners for the cylinders has been a struggle, and I finally got some more cylinders in last week, so I'll be able to get those bored and honed, and then we can get that thing buttoned up. So that's where we're at there. And then we've got Dewey's got his in here, Zeus. We're getting ready to tear that one down. That's an interesting one, pretty much locked up, and so we're gonna have some fun figuring out what's going on the inside with that one. And my commitment to Dewey was we're gonna do a teardown video. Let's see. Yeah, Joe, I snuck up on you. All right, guys, I'm gonna roll back here and see. We had some good questions when we got started, so I'm gonna roll back and see. And whoa, hang on a minute, Travis, $100, man. Good grief! Thank you. We're gonna get these kids on bikes, man. It's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Let's roll through some questions here and see what we've got. You guys were chatting away pretty good here before I had a chance to get on. Patrick Sandler in the beginning there, rebuilt my primary, put the Manowar compensator in with a Scorpion clutch, running 3 green, 3 gold springs, and it's still slipping. Do you have any idea what it could be? I would recommend talking to the guys at Barnett about that, and it could be, man, that's a lot of spring. Look at what primary fluid you're running. I believe they recommend using a Type F ATF and only running about 18 to 20 ounces in there. And if you're putting more than that or anything other than just a regular old Type F, sometimes they can still slip. So I would take a look at that, and also take a look at your stack height of the clutch plates, and then also, make sure your push rod adjustment. Rube Sanchez, his bike he's also one of our members. His bike is coming to us on December 1st, doing a 128 skunk on his 2020 Street Glide, man. Thank you very much. Look forward to getting it. Dalton, tips for someone looking to build a shovelhead chopper. That's actually a long conversation. What I'm hoping to do with a lot of this, we get through some of the major common issues. You guys will notice my videos jump all over the place. And it's because I try to attack common problems that people are seeing. And but I definitely want to, and matter of fact, on the shovelhead stuff, you guys have seen or heard me mention the curve bike that I'm building. That'll be unveiled in Sturgis this year. And it is a shovelhead, but there's something pretty unique about that shovelhead with the fact that it's got 2 rear cylinder heads on it. So that's going to be a great series on building that engine. Let's see, how's everybody doing? Weather. It's 50 degrees here today. I actually drove the old Chevelle in. Some Maine lobster, love it. Let's see. Scrolling through questions here. Get past the chat. Slick 50 mentions Tom Kiefer from Franklin Church Choppers for the motor you suggested. Yeah, Tom Kiefer is he's a heck of a guy, man. Really cool guy, and an incredible bike builder. And his place is Franklin Church Choppers. You guys check him out on the web and maybe shoot him an email. Give Tom a little encouragement. Look him up and look at some of the stuff he does. He's a great guy. Matt, you're welcome, sir. He's referencing a post that I put up for Veterans Day and a fellow named Bill Bowers that I had a chance to know. Man, we've got some more donations coming in. You guys are incredible. Brian, $100. Golly, man. Thanks, guys. All right, so I saw a question. I'm trying to find it. Here's one from Mike Burgett. I think I'm pronouncing that right. How far can you punch out an 88 twin cam without major upgrades to the drivetrain? I do a lot of touring. So you can, if you're referring to your stock cylinders, you can actually safely go to a 98 cubic inch, which would be boring your stock cylinders to a 3937 bore, which is basically 100 millimeters. And I've been doing that ever since 2001. That's the same bore size used in a 107, so that was done, even later. And if it's bored and honed and pistons fit perfectly, and you get all that taper out at the bottom of the spigot, which I have a cylinder here, I'll show you. You have to be careful when you're boring. Now, I would not bore a spigot that thin on an M8 cylinder, absolutely no, but I would do it on a twin cam. But what can happen is if you get the spigot too thin, it breaks, like that one does. Too thin, and also you have to be very, very careful when you're honing that far, because it gets very thin. So the clearance, that piston clearance at the bottom of the stroke, has to be spot on perfect. If it's a little bit tight, it can crack. But there are dozens of places that have been boring to that size. So I would say you could safely go to a 98, and without really doing any clutch or anything like that, unless you're going to be beating on it pretty good. Chad Martin asks, dipstick 20 Street Glide Special, will that help oil coming out of the breathers? It could, if you've got a sumping issue and that issue is being caused by elevated crankcase pressure, then yes, venting that could definitely help address that. Pat Wrenching, one of our members. A short video, let's see, Kevin, question for 1,000 words of vid must be, oh, thank you, Pat. Sorry, it wasn't a question, it was a comment. Very good point. Thank you, sir. Let's see. What else we got? Now let's scroll back down. Dark Soul mentions, would like to see how you go about putting a catch can on from the breather, shooting oil back in the intake. That's a good one. If you guys will, yeah, you can buy them cheaper if you buy them direct than you buy them from me, because I don't really get a discount on them. But if you go to Summit or Jegs, you'll see a mini catch can made by a company called Jazz, J-A-Z, and it's actually pretty small. It's about that tall and maybe about that big around. It's got a drain on the bottom of it, a filter, and you can get them with a dual 5/16 or 3/8 hose barbs that come out of them. They're plastic. They're really easy to drain, and you can put that on the down tube, and that's a great product. I think they're about $75 or something like that, but that's how I do it. And if you guys just went to Summit or Jegs, you can save yourself some money, buy it direct from them. All right, let's see what else we got. Michael, love the Chevelle. Thank you, sir. Pat Wrenching asks, what do you call it when blow-by turns into a stream of oil? We call that a problem, my friend. If you've got that much coming out, I would be checking that thing for something. I would do a leak down, a cylinder pressure test, and see what's going on. When it gets to the point that it's that much and it's not just misting, then there's definitely. Let's see. Patrick Steven asks, oh, we have big jumping questions here. I think I've got a little bit of lag. How's my stream going? Okay. That Matt, one of our members, the curve bike's going to be sick. All right, let's see. Couple of questions. Patrick asked, primary chain tensioner shoe, when do you replace it? Mine has grooves from the chain. It seems normal, not excessive. It's kind of a judgment call. I would say if the thing's about 50% worn, then that would be a good time to swap that thing out and get a new shoe in there. Let's see. Curve bike. Reality is I'm the spoon, the fork, and the knife. That's a funny one. I like that screen name. Will a gem cylinder fan go on a twin cool 2020 Road Glide Limited? Yes, sir. They do have an M8 version, and they have a twin cam version. And I have one of those fans sitting on my desk. We do the Tool Tech Tuesday thing with gems, which we've got some awesome videos coming for that. I'll tell you, our Skunk Series lifters have shipped. The lifters are hitting the door. We sold out of the Tappet Fit kits within a couple of hours of them hitting the door. But we've got more fit kits, and the lifters are finally here. So I'm going to do a big video on why you measure all this stuff, the science behind lifter to bore clearance, how to use the fit kits, the lifters, how to adjust push rods, and I'm kind of calling that the definitive guide to lifters and push rods, I guess. So anyway, so we're doing that. But I have a fan sitting over here, and Jim's asked me to do a video on the force flow fan. Well, I am going to do a video, but I told him at Jim's we're going to do real-world testing here. So we're going to do some data logging on a bike in traffic around town with using a Power Vision. I'll just data log straight from the ECM. And then we'll do it without the fan, then we'll do it with the fan. We'll compare the temperatures, the times, and we'll see how that sucker really works. I can tell you I've installed it on some bikes, and I know it works, but I want you guys to see it. So, yes, they have one, and yes, we're going to. Silver Ghost. Should I pull my crank sensor out every oil change, preventing the oil buildup in the case? I would say no if you're not having an issue, because the oils really shouldn't build up over time. The pump should evacuate it, and it only be a few moments that you have any oil down there. So it's not like it's draining and then slowly filling over time. It's such an easy thing to pull out, and you're only talking you're changing oil every 5,000 miles. Considering all the issues with the sumping and the fact that you want to catch it as soon as you can catch it, then I would say every oil change or every now and then just pull that crank sensor. Big Rob, thank you, sir. Thank you for your donation. I appreciate you. Brian Webb asks, installing a 7-speed, does anything have to be done to the ECM or tuner? You don't have to do any tuning, but you do have to address your 7th gear ratio. Okay, so when you install the 7-speed, that the ECM sees that as 6th gear. So when you shift into 7th, your 6th gear light is going to come on. Now, if you don't change all your gear ratios in that gear ratio table, then your cruise control will only work in 6th gear. So if that doesn't mean anything, or excuse me, in 7th gear. So if that doesn't mean anything to you, no, you don't have to do it. But if you want that cruise to work and your gear indicator on your dash to work proper, then yes, you have to change those gear ratios. And I actually have, Brian, I don't know if you're doing it on it's different for M8 and different for M8 and twin cam. I actually have the M8 ratios hanging on my wall right over here. I don't have the twin cam ones. Let's see. Michael asked, doing a tri-glide just for that type of riding? Yes, sir, we are. Let's see. Pat Wrenching. Question is about oil pouring out of the breathe hole. Yeah, that's if it's doing that, man, it's pouring out. You got a major problem, man. No doubt. Let's see. Let me see what other question we got. Here's a good one. Mark Shields asks us. Let's see, Mark. 17 Road Glide Special, 10,000 miles. Upgraded the oil pumping cam plate with S&S Redshift 48. I'd be worried the piston oilers with it being a first Milwaukee 8 engine. The piston oilers are always a concern. The first generation, on every one we touch, we're putting the Cometic gasket in there instead of that real thin stock gasket. They seal better. But then you also had the problem with the screws being too long and rattling and leaking. And then also, as you've seen from several of the videos, that there's the other problem with the oiler itself not functioning properly and bleeding off too quick. So it is an area of concern. But, I would say check it for sumping, check your leak downs, check your cylinder pressure. If you don't have a sumping issue, more than likely you're probably okay. But you want to check that. If you're pulling cylinders, check it while you're in there, certainly. Where should you buy the fan? I'm going to be uploading that to our website, baxtersgarage.com. I'm going to upload it after I do the testing. And I mean, I know it works. I've put them on a bunch of bikes, but again, I just want to do a real clear data log side by side so you guys can read it. But here in the next week or two, let's see, Chip, 2011 Road Glide, had Dark Horse to lower end building from there, a 110, already had a stage 4 installed. Need to get a tuner and basic map to start, don't have box for tuner. If, I do recommend the Power Vision a lot, not necessarily because it's the best one. If you guys look back, I did a video a year and a half, 2 years ago on tuning and systems and stuff. Basically, a TTS Master Tune, a Power Vision, Direct Link from Techno Research, they all very similarly do the same thing. They remap fuel tables, ignition tables. There's a lot of other bells and whistles that come with that, finite adjustments and stuff. But for the most part, if the bike is tuned exactly the same way with the same parameters, you could use any one of the systems and it's going to produce the same result. So, but I recommend the Power Vision because it's one of the most common ones out there. And if someone ever had an issue, it's easier to find a shop that would be more than likely it would be easier to find a shop that's more familiar with the Power Vision than they are the others, and that's one of the reasons I recommend it. So let's see what else we got. Edward Ferris, what spark plug gap do you recommend for big bore twin cam 10.5 to 1 compression ratio? 40 thousandths. Yeah, 40 thousandths. No need to do anything different than that. David Breckenridge installed a Redshift 468 in the 18 Road King. Do I think the oil change frequency needs to be increased? I would see no reason for that. Of course, a big part of checking the state of tune is smelling the fuel after you have a lot of miles, or excuse me, state of tune is smelling the oil after you had a few miles on it. And that's, if you smell a lot of fuel in the oil, that's a good indication you may want to tweak your tune a little bit, but there's no need to change the oil change frequency at all. And most are going to, do a 5,000 mile interval if you're running synthetic. So that's pretty good. Let's see. Matt Pelletier, we discussed this when I brought the bike in, but any more thoughts on rear cylinder heat spike coinciding with a 5 to 8 psi oil pressure drop, intermittent sumping, and a teardown video? There's no question they have one to do with each other. There's some oil starvation issues, and with that much of an oil pressure drop, we've either got some trash in there or we've got, there's a bypass or your pressure relief valve in your cam plate. It's sticking or there's an issue there. And so that's a good one. Detroit Fits, $20 donation. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We're going to match that. Let's see. Listening from England, Neil. Welcome. B2 Viking. 25K on a 124 doing heads this winter. Should I refresh the rings? Before you tear it down, do a leak down and a cylinder pressure test. That's going to tell you a lot about the health of those rings. But you have to keep in mind, too, that it's a leak down test. It basically represents what's going on at the top of the cylinder. But you can have glazing in the middle of the cylinder as well. And you can't, there's really not a way to test that. You've got to get the engine in just the right spot and it can't move. And that's a hard test to do. I would say a good gauge, if you can get you a cheap, bore camera and bore scope the inside of the cylinder and just kind of look at the cylinder, and then a leak down and cylinder pressure test, and that should give you a good indication. Excuse me. Anthony Conrad, best performance spark plug for increased compression in 91 octane. I'm going to say that for the absolute majority, the huge vast majority of the engines we build, we run stock plugs or stock equivalent. So I'm not sure if we're talking M8 or twin cam, but I run the stock plug, stock heat range, stock resistor. The ion sensing system that works in the fuel injection is pretty sensitive to plug wire changes and plugs as well. And I find the ion sensing system is most efficient when you maintain all of that resistance there. And, with a proper tune, stock heat range works fantastic. And I've done that. I've used stock plugs even on monsters, 250, 300 plus horsepower, pro charger type stuff. I'll change it if we're doing a nitrous build, but only if it's required. But I will, on that note, I actually have a box sitting. The guys from E3 Spark Plugs, all right, they gave me a call and asked if you guys have seen these, I think. So they sent me a box of them, and they asked if we could do something. And, of course, you guys know how I am. Doing anything until we test it. So we're going to do something with E3 Spark Plugs. We may be surprised. We may be surprised. They may actually work really well and see a gain. But we're going to test the E3 Spark Plugs. And I'll show you one other since you mentioned spark plugs. You guys remember Rob Schwartz from Rob's Dyno Service? Well, Rob is actually a distributor for Brisk Racing. Funny you mentioned spark plugs. I have them laying. So Brisk Racing plugs. they make a racing version and they make a bit of a standard replacement. And Rob is a huge believer in these Briss plugs, and they work really well. But check this one out. Notice there's no camera just right. Notice there's no ground strap on this. Now, from what Rob tells me, and he sent me some of these to play with, because they're such an efficient plug, he's seeing significant dyno gains, mainly because he doesn't have to retard the timing as far and all this stuff. It's just a very efficient plug. He's saying 5 to 7 horsepower increase. I believe what Rob's telling me. I don't doubt it. But these plugs are worn out after about 5,000 miles, and they cost about $18 a piece. So, but I'm going to test these along with the E3. If you're interested in those marginal gains, give Rob a call at Rob's Dyno and talk to him about those Briss spark plugs. Let's see, what else we got? Is the Bike for Kids organization set up as a 501c3? May we send donations to your shop? Yes, sir, it is. It's the way, I have my nonprofit, which is 3T Sports. I was doing triathlon, Ironman racing, and raising money for special needs children, and did that for many years. And of course, COVID hit, so no training, gyms were closed, couldn't race. So, but anyway, if you want to look at the number 3, the letter T, and sports, that's actually my nonprofit. And it's a 100% charity, so every penny that goes into that charity as well goes to help the kids. And yes, it is a 501c3. So if you would like to send a donation directly to the shop, then you can make the check out to 3T, again, the number 3, the letter T, sports, and then I can send you a receipt for your tax purposes if you would like to do it that way. Thank you very much, Joe. Should HD get designers that are full-grown adults? Yeah. I got to tell you guys, I'm going to break for a second, and then I'll get to some questions because I think I'm kind of caught up. This goes back many years ago. If you guys remember when Orange County Chopper first came out, and it's funny because it's a bicycle thing too. I remember sitting. I mean, this goes back. I guess it was around 2002, 2003. I guess when the biker bill off stuff started. And I'm sitting on the front porch of my house having a cup of coffee, and coming up the street is a dad wearing tennis shoes and white knee socks and shorts, and he's wearing a Harley t-shirt, which is awesome. You got to give him styling cues. And his wife was wearing a pair of leggings, and she had on a pink Harley t-shirt, and their kid was riding one of those bicycles that you could buy from a big department store. You remember the raked out chopper bikes? The bicycles, them things weighed like 200 pounds and painted all kind of crazy colors. And so I watched the kid ride by on one of those chopper bicycles, and I just, oh man, things have changed. So anyway, yeah, full-grown adults be designing motorcycles. Torben's listening from Denmark. Welcome, sir. Thank you. That's one of the places on this planet that I haven't been to yet, and I hope to make it there. George Spain, very good question, George. On your Skunkworks builds, do you check the line bore on each case before placing in a new crank? Yes, sir, absolutely. We also check the cam bearing alignment as well. That's standard fare. Absolutely, has to be. Joe asks, what's the name of the brew pub in Winder? Been told there is or was a joint there with a fine beer selection. Just planning our trip down. Actually, Friends is a great local eatery, and great folks. The fellow that owns the place is a super nice guy. His name is Ray. They've got burgers and fries and all that type of stuff. They've got a great beer selection. Sure. And then you also want to make sure to check out the distillery with you guys may have heard the podcast, the In the Red Clay, talking about the Dixie Mafia and running whiskey and stuff back in the 60s and 70s. Well, that distillery with his father, who was the lead hitman for the Dixie Mafia, they brewed his daddy's 100-and-something-year-old, or his grand uncle, I think is where it all started. It's some 100-year-old whiskey recipe, and it's absolutely fantastic. So make sure to check out the distillery in Winder too when you come. As a matter of fact, we'll go over there and we'll have us one or two, and I'll introduce you to Stony Burt. Pat Wrenching, HD did a leak down test and came back with a 40% loss down the cylinder. What would be the cause of? Would that be the cause of oil pouring out of the breathe bulb? Yeah, exactly. That's the leak down cylinder pressure test thing. A 40% loss is massive. So basically what that means is your combustion pressure is not being sealed by the piston rings. It's working its way past the rings, pressurizing the crankcase. Well, when it does that, then you start to back up oil in the crankcase. All of that oil mists inside there with it sloshing around with the crank. And basically that oil then becomes saturated into the air, kind of at a molecular level. The air becomes very heavy with oil, and that air travels and vents up your pushrod tubes into the head breathers where it cools down a little bit, and then it condenses. And once it condenses, it blows out the breather bolt. So, yes, sir, it's it's piston and cylinder time if you've got a 40% there. That's the cause. Let's see. Vegas Geezer Tri-Glider. Hello, Kevin. I have a 2020 Tri-Glide with the M8 114, and the oil smells very strongly of gas. Told the dealership when I brought it in for schedule 5,000 miles. Okay. Yeah, that's an indication of more than likely an overly rich fuel mixture. Now, when you tune a trike, tuning a trike is vastly different because the bike weighs a lot more. And a lot of you guys will notice, if you're cruising around town running on any bike 50, 60 miles an hour, then you step it up to 70 and 80 miles an hour, your gas mileage goes down. Well, it's due to wind coefficients. Okay, so let's say, for example, if you're looking at, if you've got lower fairings on and then you got a batwing fairing, that's 11.5 square feet of frontal area. And when you watch your load, referred to as your KPA, kilopascals, which is the metric of inches of mercury, it's the vacuum on the engine, and it's a representation of engine load. So as you increase in speed or you add weight, that load increases as well. So when you're tuning, your tuning files are your fuel delivery, your fuel command, air-fuel ratios, if you will, are based on the later model bikes on your KPA, which is representation of engine load, and RPM. The fact that you have a heavier bike, that needs to be taken into consideration. And you would want to run a slightly leaner fuel mixture at higher loads in order to lean that out a little bit. But of course, you've got to do it while, that's the trick of tuning. You got to do that while maintaining your engine temperature and keeping it from detonating. So if it strongly smells of gas, then yeah, I would have to have that tune, recommend having that tune evaluated. Another thing you could do is try to run in a lower gear ratio. Try to keep your RPMs up a little. Instead of running at, say, 2,500 RPM, kick that up to about 2,000 RPM. Don't jump into 6th gear until you hit 70, 75 miles an hour. And that will probably help your fuel consumption as well. So maybe give that a shot. Jeff, I've used E3 plugs the last 5 years. I've had no issues. Engine starts easier, burns clean, and you're 110. That's good to know. Thank you for sharing that. I'm actually excited to test them. Michael Jones, still have a bottle. Cheers, sir. Cheers. Reality is, I'm on the spade. What's the best option for inverted forks, including handlebars for my road glide? Really, the Öhlins are a fantastic choice. I mean, they can be pretty pricey, but that's a pretty good option for you. Let's see. George Spain asks, are the cylinders that you use on your Skunkworks builds hard to get, or is it just the Harley OEM cylinders? We don't use any Harley OEM cylinders on any of our builds, unless it is a twin cam and we're doing just boring and honing to, say, a 95 or a 98 inch or a 7 or a 103. The twin cam cylinders, they've been proven over and over. So on the twin cams and that sort of deal, yes. But when it comes to anything larger than a stock, horrible type displacement, and all the M8s, I don't use any factory cylinders on the M8s. And but when you start getting into our 117s and stuff like that, then it's no, we don't use Harley cylinders. Bagger trash. You talked about head breathers before. You still not recommend using with your venting the crankcase. Okay, let me. That's a good question. I let me clear that up. It's not that I didn't recommend using them. I definitely want to be clear on this. So I say only use it if you need them. Okay. So what I've seen all too often is I've had many people call me. You guys, remember I get hundreds of emails a day, and I've had a lot of people tell me that they did not have a sumping problem until they started breathing everything. It seems like folks tend to do everything at once. Putting in a vented stick, putting in the trans cover, and doing their head breathers, turning into free breather, doing all that at once, and now all of a sudden they've got elevated oil consumption problem. Okay, so what you have to do is you got to catch that sumping as soon as you possibly can. The first time you notice a wide variance in your fuel economy, the first time you notice your oil level changing up or down, and it having no logic to it, you'll have a little more one day and a little less the next, or a little more the next day, or you feel like you dropped an anchor. Suddenly you feel like you got a loss of power. Or again, you notice a big change in your fuel economy. Something's holding it back, and it's got to be something. So when that happens, what you want to do is try to do it in stages. Okay, so the vented dipstick is a great option. Trask's new vented top cover for the transmission is a great option in lieu of a dipstick. The A1 Cycles dipstick is a great option that Beelan makes. That's an awesome one. The DK Customs little breather thing that they've come out with, that's a great option too. It's a matter of just doing it in stages. So I would say don't do it if you don't need it, but when you need it or when you do it, you got to catch that something thing quick, and then kind of do it in stages. All right. So maybe try venting the top cover or venting the dipstick first, and if you still have a little bit of misting coming out of those breathers, then vent it, and then that'll help preserve the carbon buildup on the piston and all. Don Clark, what's a good build for a tri-glide for traveling the country in your retirement? I would like to know what year you're working with. What we do on all of our builds, since we are building custom tailored suits here, Jason, my general manager, reaches out to folks and sets up a consultation with me. And we have a conversation. There's a fee involved, of course, because it takes time to do that. We have a very long conversation. I ask you a bunch of questions about your bike, where you ride, how much all this stuff, because I wanted to make sure you've got everything proper for your build. And then we send you an estimate for what that is. And then, of course, if we end up doing business, we credit you back that. But to give you just kind of a round figure answer without knowing all the details, you want to have a very good tuning system. You want to keep the compression ratio. You want to be reserved on that, okay? You want to use a cam that has a relatively short duration, that has a relatively early intake close. The idea to give you as much cylinder fill at low RPMs as we can and get that torque number up at low RPMs. Keeping the compression ratio conservative, your valve size conservative, your port shape conservative, and then tune it, accordingly. All too often, people will build a very aggressive build and then have to tune incredibly conservative. And basically, what happens is you spend a lot of money doing a big build, only to have to detune it to make it proper for the bike and where you're. But that's a general thing. If you want to email me at Kevin at Baxter's Garage or Jason at protwin.com, either one. Let's see. Arnold asks, trying to track a tricky oil leak on a 3-hole twin cam. Die in each hole to pinpoint source of leak. What are your thoughts on the approach? That's perfect. Absolutely perfect approach. But only put dye in the one that you think it is first. If you put dye in all of them, it's hard to separate them. So add dye to the transmission, check it. Add dye to the primary, check it. Add dye to the engine oil, boom. If you see dye, you know it's engine oil. So just do one hole at a time there. But we do that process every day. Best way to remove oxidation on Evo rocker boxes. If you want to, Mothers has got some great polish. There's all kind of great polish, but if the oxidation is too bad, then it's going to take you some time to do it, man. But get 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 grit sandpaper, wet sand it. Be very easy with it, wet sand it, and then work your way through the polishing grits, and you can then you can get a mirror finish on those things, and that works really, really well. Let's see. Let's see. I believe those covers are brushed aluminum. Yep, Nick's. Yep, that's correct. Let's see. Some more questions. Michael, enjoy bowling. See you, my friend. Thanks again for being a member support. Have you dug in the issue with M8 motors and oil consumption? Also, in your opinion, how much is unacceptable for a new or low mileage motor? That's a good question, Mark Smith. And yes, we've dove into that. A lot of it's there's so many compounding issues with this thing, and I believe a lot of it's ring seal. What it comes down to, ring to cylinder, and excuse me. Once you get past the sumping, but there are very few places that oil can come from. Those, if I'm not mistaken, there was a service bulletin that just went out, and that service bulletin was something like a quart every 1,500 miles or something is acceptable, and to me that's absolutely much. A quart over maybe 5,000 miles, but 1,500 that's kind of excessive. All right, Graham Turner, 03 Road King, flipped the ignition switch, relay under the seat buzzes. No lights, the dash panel flickers, has a new battery charge. Anyone seen this before? You might have a wiring problem in there, bud. I remember that wiring harness 2003. That sucker's almost 20 years old. So you got to make sure the wiring's good. But if you're just hearing a buzz, that could be your if it's a system relay, especially if it's fuel injected, it could be a system relay, and it's typically more than likely going to be what it. But if you're hearing a constant buzzing, I wouldn't mess around with it too much, man. That old girl could go up in flames. But pull the seat, listen around. Take a screwdriver, put it in your ear, and listen around. You probably will find your starter relay that's making that noise. There's a mention system relay. All right, let's see what we got. Looking for Jeff Kane, looking for a recommendation on a Harley Breakout 103, 255 cams, SNS cam plate, and Trask Turbo 8 PSI. I want more horsepower. What do you recommend? One of the first things I would do, I'm not sure how much boost you're making. Not sure that is. Of course, you got to be careful bottom in there and how much boost you to it. So stuff. Nick Trask is an awesome guy, man. Nick's a great dude. You could always call Trask and see if they've got any ideas. Maybe you. Oh, I'm sorry, I do see it. You're running 8 psi of boost. I missed that part. Sorry about that. 8 psi is a pretty good bit. I've heard some people running 10 and 12, but man, that's you can start playing with cams. That's a good thing, especially with a boosted engine. You can start running a cam with a longer duration. Will help get that boost in there. One with a little more overlap, but you got to be careful with that too, because you can start running boost out of your exhaust at your TDC point. So it's kind of a delicate balance there. Quite a science. I don't really have a frame of reference, but I would say, first thing, talk to Trask and give them some ideas of what you're after, and then start looking at some cams, again, a little longer duration, that sort of thing, and go from there. Matt, 83 FXR. Matt, one of our members, it's mostly stock. Dual plug the heads or not? If jury's kind of been out on that for a while. I mean, I can tell you that, yes, there can be benefits. And one of the biggest things about it, you got a big high crown dome there. And with a dual plug on each side, you can get a lot more efficient mix. But I've had some. I've talking to old race guys and stuff. I've had some guys tell me that they never really saw a difference in dual plugging unless they were running, alcohol or something like that, doing a lot of racing and stuff. I've had other people claim that there was a big, huge difference. I myself, for a typical street bike, I never saw a tremendous difference in normal everyday street riding. But racing, when you're trying to get those incremental gains, yes, sure, incremental gain. Let's see. Pat, it stands bloody good reason to upgrade the 114 to 128, and they won't warranty it. Sorry to hear that, Pat. But yeah, it's cylinder piston time, bud. No. Let's see. Jonathan Rector, I have a 2007 Road King with 56,000 miles. Oh, my chat window just messed up here. Here we go. I want a motor. It's 100 horse and torque. Should I start with a newer 96 to build? Absolutely not. If you've got a 2007 Road King, that engine could become a 107. So we could bore and hone your stock cylinders, do some head work, make it a 107. And if it's suitable for you, 10.5 to 1 compression ratio, getting you just the right cam, that's a conservative 110 horse, 120 foot-pound torque engine. Conservative. That can go up or down a little bit depending on pipes and stuff. But getting you that out of that, there's no need to start with a newer 96. Build the one you have. Check your crank run out. Definitely want to check the crank. Aussie NPD Twin Cam 88 OEM cylinders. Is it safe to bore to a 98 or is a 95 better? I've 98's 3937 bore, 100 millimeter. I've successfully bored to that size for 20 years, almost 20 years, and haven't had any issues doing that. If a lot of it depends. I've got those kind of builds with 100,000 miles plus on them, and I've never had a problem. So you just have to make sure that cylinder is bored perfectly, and that piston, if there's no taper in it, and at the bottom of the skirt, piston's got the proper clearance. If it's slightly too tight, it can crack, and you don't want that to happen. So as long as it's bored right, you can go to a 98. Phil, an 07 Night Train, looking at the Man of War comp, not sure what size to get. What are the difference between 34 and 32? Well, I'll tell you right now, they've pretty much stopped selling the 32 because of the most of the manual primary chain tensioners that are out there, be it Hayden's, Southern Oregon's, or the Baker, doesn't adjust up quite enough on most bikes to get enough slack out of the chain on the 32. And there was a shoe that was available that you would use on the stock tensioner, and can't source that shoe anywhere. So they've pretty much stopped selling the 32 because you can't get that shoe. I would say, if you were looking for a little bit of boost to low-end torque, a 32 would be the way to go. The problem, getting you a tensioner shoe. Fit that. Pretty much would have to run. Let's see. Gifty 74, excessive oil consumption, 2,000 miles. Why is it recommended to vent the crankcase on an M8? To relieve excessive crankcase. That's the bottom line. If you have excessive blow-by, basically pressure coming past the rings, that overpressurizes the crankcase. When that happens, your oiling system is inefficient. So that's that. But there's also other reasons that they sump. We've done many. And guys, don't forget, if you've just come on, we're doing the fundraiser for All Kids Bike. For everything you donate on the super chat, I'm going to match it 100%. Got 30. I'd have to do the math. We need to raise about, let's say, right now we are at $359.96. I'm going to match that at $360. And then we have, I think it was $1,200 that we have from the t-shirt sale. So we're basically up to let's say with my match, we're getting close to $2,000 to go. But we'll get there. All right. Let's see. DK, can you share your thoughts on reusable oil filters like Pure Power and J&P? I spoke with a customer about this yesterday. He'd asked me about that. I've got to be transparent with you guys. I don't. Jag makes a great one. KMP makes one. There are a lot of good ones out there. I can't really give you a personal opinion on it because I find them to be. Again, this is personal opinion. Okay, so I just find them to be more trouble than they're worth. The disposable filters that we've used and we test, they perform fantastic. I've never had any issues, and it's just the having to clean them and the assurance that it's perfectly clean. You got to remember, filters filter microns, and a lifter, a tappet, is the best oil filter there is. They'll trap everything, and if you can't get them perfectly clean, then But again, that's my personal opinion. Okay, so take that for a grain of salt. But I don't use them, and I don't really push them. So that's my thing on. All right. Let's see. Bear with me. Let me get a little bit more tea here. I'm starting to lose my voice, guys, and you guys are throwing donations in like crazy. Thank you. We've got a new member in here. Thank you. I'll list your names here in just. Anthony Conrad. Kevin, is there anything you don't know about Harleys? What do you wish you knew more about? Anthony, that's a great question. Yes, there are things that I don't know. I don't claim to know everything. I'm learning new things every day, and some of it is I have to consume information, right? My wife does make the joke sometimes. She'll call me a know-it-all, and I have to chuckle, and I tell her, I said, no, honey, I don't know it all. I keep my mouth shut unless I'm certain of what I'm saying, and until you can show me a better right, then I'll keep saying what I'm saying. And so we chuckle about that. But yeah, there's certainly things that I don't know, and I learn every day. I learn from other people. I learn from people like you. You guys send emails and send me down paths and force me to investigate stuff. What do I wish I knew more about? Man, that's a very, very painting. I wish I was gifted as some of these painters are. I can do sheet metal, I can do machining and all that stuff, but painting is an art that I haven't quite learned to master yet. But the curve bike, that's why Andy Anderson out of Nashville, he's an absolute legend painter. Check him out on Facebook, Andy Anderson out of Nashville, Tennessee, and Anderson Studios, and look at some of his work. Incredible. I'm going to go to Nashville, and Andy is going to teach me his craft. So that's one thing I wish I knew more about. And thanks to Andy, I'm going to get about that. Kevin, what do you like as a replacement brake rotor over stock? Mine are getting in, 2-up riding, if that makes a difference. There are some better ones out there. Some very, very expensive ones out there. But if I recall correctly, Carrie, you have got a ton of miles on your bike. I think you got 130, 140,000 miles. And if this is the first time you've replaced rotors, I would stick with a stock replacement. Obviously, it's serving you well. I don't know if you'd have to spend a fortune, but I know Rob is also working on your bike. And, maybe ask Rob, see what he thinks. For me, if a stock one served you that long, stick with a stock one. Let's see. Jeff, thank you for your videos and knowledge, top notch. Thank you very much. Gracious of you to say. Joe Kubash, if you check the new HD Touring oil filters to see if they're going into bypass as readily as the models did. No, sir, I haven't tested them specifically. Excuse me. With that new oil filter, what that says to me is I think they more than likely they figured out that Super Premium 5 is doing that. So they filter. And but I haven't tested it, so I'm not going to even speculate and give an opinion on that. But thanks for bringing it up. I will look into that. Let's see. Is there Jonathan Rector signed on as a new member? Thank you very much, Jonathan. I appreciate that very much, sir. And Carrie Lewis, a $50 donation. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you. I'm going to match that. Let's see, what's next? Is there a quiet performance exhaust for M8? Actually, there is. Quite a few of the exhaust companies that are out there offer a quiet baffle version. You know, each one a little bit different. They each have their different tones. But I know D&D, they have a unique sound, but they, you know, like the billet cat, they offer kind of a quiet baffle. So I you know, investigate the, you know, the different manufacturers. And each manufacturer now, because a lot of the CARB compliance, that's required, you know, California Air Resource Board and a lot of things like that, they're limited in certain decibels. So that's kind of part of the DB line, the DBX line that Reinhardt has. They're trying to control, you know, and get the decibel level down. So most exhaust companies are posting their decibel ratings. So I, you know, look into that. Flathead 1930. 2-1 for stock 114 M8 with stock factory tune. 2-1 for stock 114 stock factory tune. I guess you're asking, you know, what would be a good 2-1 pipe for that? Any pipe you put on it, if you're removing the cat, you'll have to tune the bike. So you know, keep that in mind, of course. But you know, Bassani has one that's good. The D&D is great. The Billet Cat, Reinhardt 2-1 is fantastic. You know, the three good ones, and there's a handful of others out there. So you know, check on that. Jonathan, weary of the crank having crazy run out. Yes, sir, that's a concern. But you know, 2007, 2008 year models with run out were probably the worst years. But you know, a lot of them there was opportunity to have run out issues. So just buying a new engine is not a guarantee that you're going to have one without a run out. So you know, the best thing to know is to check it. Open the primary side, open the cam chest, measure run out on both sides. Look for a tight spot in there. You know, when you pull the cylinders, rotate it many times. And that's about the best you can do. Let's see, Daniel Bates had my 80 Evo board, 20 thou over Wiseco pistons, new valve springs, Andrews. Any guesses on what horsepower I'm looking at? No, sir, not really. I mean, I know to get you know, roughly 85 horse and torque out of an Evo, you almost have to do some head work with that too. So, but I wouldn't know where to speculate. Sorry. Let's see. Aussie MPD, a 107 twin cam Bill McCooney HSR 40 R45. I would say if your goal is to have the lowest end torque and narrowest, you know, power range, moving that power range down, probably go with a 42. If you want more mid-range to top end, you could go with a 4. And let's see, Steve Hastings, your thoughts or experience with cryo treat valve springs, etc. Let's see. Who else we got? Bill Brummett. We're doing a 117 for Bill. Bill's actually got his done too. We're waiting on for his as well. His crank is done, case is together, cam chest is together, heads are done. We are rocking and rolling. So I will talk to you about. I'll give you a call on that, Bill. Certainly. Let's see. Slick 50, one bottle of rum on its way. That's very generous, sir. Thank you very much. Divine Swine. Hey, thanks for chat Q&A, Kevin. Quick. The top end rebuild in the works on an 88 twin cam with 40,000 miles. Compression test 70 ish. And they're within 10 pounds of compression. 70? 70 is awfully low. When you do a compression test, you have to make sure that you hold the throttle open all the way. May be the problem there. But 70 is pretty low. You should be in the 140, 150 range on a healthy engine. So yeah, that 70 is pretty dang low. I would suspect maybe maybe weren't holding the throttle open. So maybe repeat the test and you got 70. Maybe do a leak count on it too. You're probably gonna find that it's a little high. Let's see. Evelyn Wilson. Will a worn compensator cause hard starting on my 85 FX? 50,000. Oh, nice. SNS 508 lifters, adjustable pushrod, Wiseco, 10 overbore fire ignition. A worn compensator can cause kickback. So if you're getting kickback on the starter, then that a worn compensator can be the cause. Yes, typically you'll hear a rattling sound in there if they're worn. The Evo and early, that's the reason nobody makes, like Baker and Dark Horse and those guys. The reason nobody makes really upgraded compensator for 06 and back bikes is because stock ones work exceptionally well. And similar design with the the Evos and work way back, they worked fantastic. Even so, it's very very rare to see one worn out, but you do have a ton of miles on yours. So, but your hard starting could be a result of ignition advance. Maybe you try rolling that ignition back a bit. I don't know what ignition you're running. If you have like one of Daytona Twin Techs where you can go in and change. You can go in and change like a rear cylinder offset. You can also change cranking delays, and you can also retard timing at basically 0 to 250 RPM, which is cranking RPM. Then you can retard the timing all the way up to top dead center, and sometimes that'll help there. Let's see. And Nick Hildebride, do I ever offer classes for mechanics to take from you? I used to do that years ago. I really did. I would travel. I would go to shops. I've been all over the world, actually. I've been Australia. I've done several European tours and all that, doing that, teaching engine building and tuning. But we've been so busy here lately. Joe, what's the last year twin cam they used a tapered bearing on the crank? That would have been 2002 was the last year that they did that. 2002. Let's see. Gary Clay, what cylinders would you recommend change 83 to 1201? Talk. Yeah, Gary, if you can, obviously you're a member here, if you can shoot me an email, send that to kevin@protwin.com, kevin@protwin.com, and we can chat about that. Let's see, Joe, bring down several used filters for me to cut open. If you're curious, maybe see how much metal came out of the new short. Yes, I'm interested in that, Joe. If you want to bring some filters, let's cut them open and take a look. Let's see, Bagger Trash. Not sure why you're skipping over the question. That's because I didn't see it, Bagger Trash. Oh, there it is. You talked about head breathers forward. You still not recommend using them when venting the crankcase. I didn't look over your question, sir. I answered it probably about 7 minutes ago, I guess, when you sent the first one, and mentioned that it's not that I don't recommend them. I then explained everything of doing it in stages and just trying one or the other. So yeah, if you rewind maybe about 10 minutes, then you should hear that question. We're at an hour and 22 minutes. We're doing, an hour and 20, hour and a. So anyway, hope you can find that there, but thanks. Let's see, what else? Okay, throttle open, Divine Swine on your leak, or your compression test, turn lever turn, multiple tests on different days too. Yeah, if you've only got 70 pounds of compression, man, that's not very much. I would expect you to have. Divine Swine, you're welcome. Aussie MPD, new 4 3/8 SNS twin cam flywheels, welding needed, prevent scissoring, or should I leave it as is? I believe one of SNS's features, what they say is it's the way they do the crank pin, and it's such a tight fit that there's no need to weld it. So I'm going to say there's no need to weld it. But call SNS and ask them. I would say just to see what they say, but I think that's kind of one of their things is they say they don't need to be welded because of their fitment, how they that main pin there. Let's see. Jay Wallace, have a 2020 M8 doing a stage 3 install. Would I recommend doing a Zippers 468 red shift? I want more torque, but I want to keep the longevity of the motor. That's a great cam choice. It's fantastic. I absolutely recommend it. Can't beat it. Let's see. Justin was riding my 2012 Street Glide 120R, not knowing that the stock alternator out on battery stopped accelerating during the ride until it died. Yes, sir. The system went into a survival mode and a shutdown. So you could have a stator or problem. I typically recommend changing both at the same time. And so change stator regulator, and you may or may not have to put a battery in it, depending on how bad it drained that thing down. And, I recommend Cycle Electric. I've been in this business 20 and I've never had a single failure with a Cycle Electric stator and regulator system. Not a single one. So that would be a good choice. No problem, Bagger Trash. You're welcome, sir. Pat Wrenching, tuning question. Find it difficult to get Harley tuning skills in Sweet. Is there enough transfer from learning the basic in cars to use my power vision and make? The terminology will be different. Typically when you're tuning cars, what they term as, say, volumetric efficiency is not quite what volumetric efficiency is on a lot of the tuning software. If you're skilled in tuning, you should be able to pick it up fairly well because you can understand what the engine's doing. Understanding engine dynamics is the key to tuning, not knowing how to run software, right? So, there's some nuances to tuning twins, for sure. But, there's a lot of good videos out there on it too, and the instructions from those guys are pretty good. If you're used to tuning cars, you could probably make the transfer on a relative stock or mild build. Any broad overview thoughts on the SU eliminator carbs? Yeah, man, those things have been around for forever. Those SU carbs are pretty awesome if you know how to work them and know how to tune them in, get them dialed in. But yeah, fantastic. Let's see, Justin say after I replace my alternator, the idle would not come down to 3,000 RPM till you reset it. That actually doesn't surprise me. Because the system to a large degree is trying to survive. So if it's a fly-by-wire bike, your throttle plate acts as an idle air control motor. But if you're not a fly-by-wire, then you have the idle air control motor on the top, and it's trying to make adjustments and trying to keep the point. And then when you get, you got drop in voltage and all that, the system's trying to out. So restart it, and then boom, you got voltage again. That pentals open up all the way, or that throttle plate's a little bit more from where it was before it down. So yeah, I'm not surprised. If it reset, you're good. Jay Wallace, you're welcome. Hey, Sean Anderson, good to see you, sir. VK, you're welcome. Justin C. Place with drag specialties alternator cleared codes. I can't get the idle to come to normal. Fly by wire. That's interesting. One thing you can try is to almost it worked every time on bikes that had idle air control motors, and it works sometimes on fly by wire bikes. But what you'll do is you want to put your ear down at the throttle body and listen for the throttle. Make sure your stop run switch is on run. Turn the switch on, and you'll hear it calibrate. Turn the switch off, and immediately turn it back on again. All right, and you want to time that and do that 2 or 3 times. Do that 2 or 3 times, and sometimes that's just enough to reset it. So give that a shot. Joe Dorenzi, Kevin, some time ago you had Eric from Legend Suspension with a boatload of information concerning the Revo A's. Now you have a pair of them. Congratulations, Joe. That's awesome, man. Glad that worked out. Yeah, that was a pretty good video on that. I was glad Eric came on with us. So let's see where we're at, guys. So we are at $409.96, to which I'm going to match. That puts us at $820. And then we add I'll have to look at what the t-shirt said. 1,200 or 8. So we're getting closer to our $5,000. So guys, all of you guys that have helped us with the all kids bike thing, thank you very much for doing it. All right, who's next? Pork Chops Pappy bought a 2001 Electric Glide Classic, 50,000 miles, smells of raw gas from the oil pressure is 36 at idles at 800. I have to give it gas to start, idles well, engine makes no noise. All right, so you're, I believe you're going to be a Magneti Morelli on that one, or is it carbureted? Um, yeah, it's running rich, so that could either be, I would imagine more than likely you got, well, if it's a carburetor, you need to dial that idle mix down. Yeah, dial that back a little bit. If it's Magneti Morelli can be tough. It actually is. There's a very specific process to follow in Magneti Morelli. And when I get those bikes in sometimes, I have to completely start from scratch, setting every parameter in it. And sometimes that can take 2 or 3 to do because you have to let the engine warm up, cool down, warm up, cool down, make adjustments. And what I find a lot of times over years, people have changed and played with them and turned, and it throws them. So you may find you've got to go through an entire process to get that dialed in if it is. Let's see, Justin C. It's got a Screaming Eagle 64mm throttle body, no air valve. Yeah, right. Tried everything. Idle hovers. Okay. Man, I without having the bike, I don't know how much I could help you there. The only thing I could suggest is maybe if you can somehow read your live throttle position with your tuning system, if you have one. Look at what your tuning. Look at what your throttle position is. Look for correlation errors, something like that. That's one I'd have to diagnose with it. The other thing you could try, disconnect the battery again, let it sit for 10 or 15 minutes, connect it again, see what. That'd be a good place to start. Or the other is you could pull your system fuse. Now the way you want to do that, I'm assuming it's maybe it has a security system on it. So the way you'd want to do that is turn the switch on with your stop run switch on run. You turn the switch on, wait for your security light to disarm, turn the switch off, and within a second or two before the security system arms, yank that main fuse out. And then that way your alarm won't be activated. So you let it, let it set for a while. All right, 2020 SGS, putting from Traveler on 2 wheel 18, putting Wilburs on the rear and Legends on the front. Issue mismatching them. Not really. If you're, it depends on your spring rates, I guess, and how you're setting everything up. If you match the spring rates, cross matching brands is not a big deal. It provided, proper spring rates. Guys. All right, let's see. I'm going to say, let's see, we've been on now for 1 hour. Let's see, we started at 12:30. We've been on for 1 hour and 15 minutes. So, as you guys know, sound is in and out as I speak. Sorry about that, Justin. Maybe that'll get a little better. If I put my face a little closer to my microphone here, that'd probably help. We still got a good stream here. All right, guys, so here we go. We've been on 1 hour and 15 minutes. We've got another 15 minutes left. And for those of you that have never been here before, I do the speed round the last 15 minutes. The speed round, the last 15 minutes. If we run out of questions, then we're done for the day and we go enjoy our weekends. So the speed round, how this works is I don't read the question out loud, which I have to ask the question. What do you guys think about seeing the comments at the top of the screen there? What do you guys think about that? You like that? Just seeing them come up like that? I don't know. Something I added this time. So anyway, way the speed round works. You fire off questions. I don't read your name. I don't read your question. I just answer them as quickly as I possibly can, one question after another. So we get to see. You guys get to ask questions. If we run out of questions, then we're done, right? So it's 1:43. We run for 1:44. We run the speed round for the next 15 minutes. All right, here we go. I have had some experience with those clutches. It depends on the application. It depends on. I don't have extensive experience. I have a couple other brands that I have had no issues with, and those I stick with. Haven't really heard any bad things about those. So I can't say anything negative, and I wouldn't. It wouldn't be fair to, because, again, I have limited experience with it. I've got a couple others that I use fairly commonly. If you're idle fluctuating at about 200 RPM, then probably tweak on the tune a little bit. The 475 cam is not a ridiculously aggressive cam. Typically, when you've got a hot idle fluctuation at 200 RPM, or a hot idle fluctuation, it might be a little bit lean on one cylinder. Try giving a little bit more fuel. Go from there. Most Bobby B, don't know the answer to that one. Stage 1. That's hard. 2-into-1 pipe, a great high flow, and a really good tune. Probably the best. Something to drink before I get rolling here. Let's get some questions going, guys. Come on. Questions and donations. Questions and donations. We're going to match them. We could hit $500. $500 at 409. We're close. All right. Some of these questions I'm going to have to read the name. Kenneth, I would check out everything that you can check out first and replace the items that show the most wear, the ones that possibly creating problems. There's no definitive necessarily on the 2013 models that you should absolutely start with first. I would pay close attention to how the bike rides, do a leak down, do cylinder test, that sort of thing, and just check overall health of the bike. Look at wheel bearings, look at all of those other things. The Andrews 4-degree sprocket is an effective way to move power up and down without sacrificing too much. It basically, but remember, you're advancing and retarding everything there in your cam profile. So if you're advancing a little bit, then you're going to build a little more cylinder pressure, get a little low. So that's you're just moving the dynamic back and forth. So that's a good way to do some, not at all uncommon. Whatever oil you want to run, I personally am an AMSOIL fan. There's some other oils out there, and I will go ahead and clue you guys in. I'm going to be involved with testing clots, and we're going to go head-to-head, clots and AMSOIL. I'm going to see if they have the better oil. If they do, I'm willing to make a switch, but we're going to go head-to-head between the clots reach. I'm going to do head-to-head on that. So quiet right now. Red bike is always faster. Always. Red bike is always faster. Best pistons and cylinders for upsizing my M8 Ultra. Shoot us an email on that, Eddie. We've got cylinders that we use, pistons, CPs. We do a lot of work on cylinders to get them right for the. Give us a shout out. Legend or progressive front monoshock? Depends on the use. Each has its own features and benefits. Buying the right product, plan on using it, budget is really key to the whole thing. So, comparable brands, they have comparable price levels, comparable options. I would just take reputable companies. Well, first VK, I would start, breather. Yeah, we got a crankcase breather. Leak down cylinder pressure, man. See, leak down cylinder pressure. See if you've got anything going on there. You could just have crazy excessive crankcase pressure, one out ring, something like that. Probably start there. Travis DeRuiter, $20. Thank you, buddy. I will be matching it. Thank you. Compensator on your 85 FXR. I'll go back on that. Sorry, it cut out. It's not going to necessarily cause a hard start problem, but it could cause a kickback. You might have to adjust your timing. I would recommend looking into that. I see you have a single fire ignition. Maybe you got a programmable ignition. You could roll back your starting. You're running like a twin tech ignition, 0 to 250 RPM. Retard the timing a little bit. That might help you there. Ceramic coating for paint. I'm a big fan of the Wizards products. Wizards are absolutely fantastic. I've put it on every vehicle I own. Wizards stuff is fantastic. You just make sure you prep it good, take your time, make the surface perfect, and it lasts. I did my truck 2 years ago, and I stays clean. It's actually pretty amazing. Best compensator for a twin cam. If we're talking 07 and up, you guys know I'm a big fan of the Dark Horse unit. It's a fantastic one. If we're talking 06 and back twin cam, a stock style replacement works perfectly fine. The stock ones are awesome. Yes, going to a 124 from an 88 can be very durable, can be very reliable. It's the right components, proper build, sizing it for you, proper compression ratios, the better components. You have to remember, you get what you pay for, you really do. So a 124 can be a time bomb if it's thrown together, but they can last a very, very long time if built proper. Stable is okay for winter storage between rides, but my best recommendation on that, if you can get your hands on non-ethanol fuel, you want to fill the tank with non-ethanol fuel. You want to ride it for a little while to make sure that non-ethanol fuel gets in your injectors, carb, or if you're carbureted, and gets in there. Then you can drop a little bit of stable in that, and that gasoline will be good for a very, very long time, many, many, many months. And then even if you've got to get a lower octane non-ethanol, it's perfectly fine. An 87 or a 90 is perfectly fine. Fill the tank up as much as you can. And then when you start riding again, just take it easy. Let that fuel, consume that fuel, and then you can go back to your ethanol if you like. So that's a good choice. Sorry about the vocals dropping in and out, guys. I'll just try to talk louder, and maybe that'll work better. I know a thicker lined large bore. I'm not sure I'd answer that one. I will tell you, I'm not a fan of building them that big. I'm assuming are we talking M8s or are we talking twin cam? I'm not sure what we're referring to. I'm sure we're probably talking M8s on that one. I personally, with its an aftermarket 4 1/4 bore, is kind of as big as I'd want to go for most people that are riding these bikes, not building race engines. Audio dropping. I don't know, but he was standing in the grassy knoll, I think. I think there may have been 2 or 3 or 4. Not exactly sure. I think that it's still open. Maybe Maryland had something. Michael's still watching. He's at the bowling alley waiting for a lane, and he's still watching. 131 done. Yeah, I'm very hesitant. I'm very hesitant at this stage to go above a 128 on these M8s. And I understand, guys, stroke, when the pistons gets bigger and bigger and bigger, that piston skirt has to get shorter and shorter and shorter. Piston stability issue amongst a few other things. So I'm stopping right now on the 128s for the M8s, pending more testing and development. Vernon Camp, $50. Thank you so much, sir. Traveler on 2 wheels, $4.99. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's crank. Iron Mike, take good care of it, man. Service it regularly. Keep an eye on things. Don't beat it up too much, and enjoy the ride. Roll with it, man. Keep it going. Dave Mackey's been around a long time. Good fella does good work. No question. That sounds like a really good build. Matt, I can't wait for you to ride it either. I can't wait to ride it. And yes, it's red. Red motorcycles go faster. Red motorcycles are faster. I'm looking forward to it myself, sir. Thank you very much. Very rarely do I see clutch cables break. Very, very rarely. I can't remember when I saw the last one. Honestly, I don't see that very often at all. No thoughts on Schaefer oil. I've heard a lot about Schaefer oil, but I have never tried it. Everyone that's mentioned it has had great things to say. I'm not. It's tough to test oil, really, for me. You can do laboratory testings and things and oil analysis. We do that stuff all the time. But, long-term effects, for me to, you almost have to trust. Use Amsoil for 20 years, but again, we're going to just go ahead and plots. But Schaefer, I'm not familiar with, but I have heard great things about it. Thumbs up on Matt there. We got 5 minutes to go on the speed round. Any more questions, guys? 5 minutes to go, and then we're going to bounce out and enjoy it. We are $484, guys, and 96 cents. We are $15 shy of busting our $500 goal that I'm going to match at $500. And that puts us 1,000. Thanks to all of you that have donated, man. You guys are awesome. Thank you, thank you. All right, 5 minutes. Here we go. I love Canada. Canada's a beautiful place. I haven't been on the West Coast. I have been all over Ontario, and I've been up into, let's see, where all have I been? Basically, I've been on the East Coast. I haven't been to Newfoundland yet, but I do want to go to Newfoundland one day and get screeched in for those. Anyway, so thanks. The performance clutch on the twin cam, I am a big fan of the American Prime clutches. American Prime clutches. Boom, Kerry Lewis. You sneaked in there, man, at the last minute. Look at that. Isaac's $10. You guys are awesome. Boom, 500. We're there. We made the goal. You can keep giving if you want, but we hit the goal. Thanks a million, guys. S. Isaacs, $10. Thank you very much. I'm a big fan of the American Prime clutches. Truth is, I've been running those clutches for years and years and years, and I'm not talking just one or two. Understand the basis for my opinion is literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them installed, and I've never had a single failure, not one. And I put them behind really, really big engines. So I'm a big believer in that. And the baskets, we use the Trask baskets regularly. And it's a great thing. You just have to have a machine shop, get the rivets out of there and then drill the holes, do all that on your back. But if you're interested in getting one, Jeff, then we can do the basket swap for you. Just send us basically your stock basket. And I do not run the carb out of fuel storing during the winter. I fill it full of put non-ethanol in it if you can. Run non-ethanol in it and let it. A carb can survive many, many, many months on non-ethanol gas without having any issues. My fear of it draining all the gas out is the condensation that can occur inside of it because your carburetor bowl is vented, so you could have that. Engine work scheduling, we are at the point now we're scheduling in completions sometime in spring to summer of next year. So we're scheduling out pretty far at this point. A lot of that is because, well, our workload parts that are coming in off back order. But the best thing to do, Bob, if you're interested, please shoot us an email, Kevin at ProTwin or Jason at ProTwin, and we can kind of see where we're at on scheduling. You're welcome, Joseph. Sean Anderson, are you serious, man? SPA. Guys, $500. We just busted $1,000 with my match. That's $2,000. That's incredible. SPA, thank you, Sean Anderson, for that. Thanks to all of you. You guys are awesome, man. This is awesome. $1,000 from you. And then $1,000 from me. We're going to get kits on bikes. Thank you guys so much. You're awesome. Joe, back to Evolution Motorwork at some time. Yes, sir, I will. I'm trying to get through. My goal is to get through these common problems, the things that people are struggling with the twin cams and the M8s. And when I feel like we've kind of gotten past all of that, then we're going to start doing some fabrication videos. We're going to do, some machine shop stuff too. Put that poll out not too long ago, and I think it was about 85% of the people said, yeah, we'd love to see some fabrication stuff. And then we're going to be doing some Evos, and we're going to do some Shovelhead work. So we're going to definitely get into that stuff. Yes, there is something that could drain the battery on a 2021 Limited, only setting for a week. On these later model bikes, there's a ton of electronics on them. I would highly recommend keeping a tender on them all the time. and maybe, man, a week. Shouldn't have drained completely in a week. Maybe see your local dealer and duplicate the problem a couple of times. Make sure that you have that issue, and then take it to them and ask them. Tell them it drained in a week, and because there are amperage draw tests that you can do to determine what the drain is, and maybe that could point them, to a particular spot. Michael, you're funny. SPA. Guys, thumbs up SPA and thumbs up everybody. I mean, collectively, guys, $1,000. You guys are awesome. SPA, thank you, thank you. Very generous of you, sir. Backfiring in a cold climate. Plugs. On a Suzuki Boulevard. We got a Suzuki Boulevard question. Backfiring in a cold climate. It depends on where the backfire is coming from. If it's coming from the exhaust or coming from the air cleaner. A lot of times, if you've got a backfire coming through your carburetor and intake, it's a lean condition. It's very, very cold climates. If it could be loading up with fuel. It more than likely could be the problem. It could be plugs. It could be plug wires also. If they're degrading a bit, then largely what can happen is it loads up with fuel and then suddenly it gets a spark and boom, you get a. I actually used to do that on the old bikes, on Evos and stuff with drag pipes. You ride through a small town and you reach up and you flip the switch off and you load up the carb, load it up, and dump the clutch at the same time that you hit the. Hit the run switch and boom, it'll blow a flame that big out the back. Of course, you can break a piston and break rings doing that too, but who cares? It's fun anyway. Thumbs up to Mr. Anderson. Justin C, thank you very much, sir. All right, guys, it is 2:02. Now, here's what I'm going to do. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for your donations. Thank you for being here. Thank you for our members. You guys are awesome. So that's 1,000, and I'm going to match that at 2,000. That puts us. It was either $1,200 or $1,800. I don't remember what I had put aside from the profit on the shirts. I want to say it was $1,200. So that would put us at that's $3,200. So basically, we're $1,800 away from being able to sponsor this school. I have already talked to the gym teacher, and I've spoken with the principal from the school through email only. And sometime in the next, as I was going to see how we did, I'm going to go meet with the principal and the PE teacher, and we're going to get this whole program put together. And I hope to be able to pull the trigger on the program before the end of the year. That would be an awesome Christmas gift for the school. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever they celebrate, whatever you celebrate is great. So that's the plan. Is I would like to be able to do that by the end of the year. It'd be a great gift for the holidays. So, guys, one more question, and then we're going to call it. Jeff Kane, $50. Jeff, thank you, buddy. Thank you. We're going to match that, too. We're going to match that. 7-speed transmissions weaker than stock? No, sir. Quite a bit stronger. Quite a bit stronger. We're at $50. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much. Guys, I think we can call it, right? We've been rolling for, it's 2 o'clock. We've been rolling for an hour and a half. Almost an hour and a half. Time for one last question, guys, and then we're going to call it a weekend. What do you guys think? One more question, and we're calling it a day. There's a little bit of a delay. Let me hit my thing here. All right. I think we're done, fellas. We're going to call it. I'm going to get some rest this weekend. I think I'm going to work on the GTX a little bit. I'm taking video footage of the whole process I've been doing on the GTX. And then we're going to do it in, hey, Carrie just mentioned the GTX video. That's funny. Great minds think alike. I'm piecing stuff together now. And I'm going to release kind of an intro video. And I think I'll probably just do like 10-minute long segments on it. I'm at the point now I've got to get the glass in it, the window regulators, the interior in it, get the seats in. I've already got carpet. The dash is completely done. The outside of the car's done. Wheels are on it. Brakes are done. Transmission's done. Rear end. Everything is ready. So I'm really on a few hours away from being able to drive the car. So we're going to release some videos on that very, very soon. Piston oiler's out yet? Not yet. Working on it. Working on it. All right, guys. Jeff, you're welcome. Thanks a million. Again, you guys are awesome. Have a wonderful weekend. I really enjoyed the time with you today. You guys take care of yourselves and each other. There's that Jerry Springer. It's the Jerry Springer sign off. Take care of yourselves and each other.